Hey, good morning, team. It is Tuesday, April 9th. I'm Amy Corr, and I am really excited. I've got a great special guest for coffee today. We have the fabulous Katie Lance. So I'm going to tell you more about Katie and how she might change your world in a second. But first, I want to make sure that you have a coffee cup filled up, warm, ready to go. And let's jump into the next episode of Coffee with Amy and Kevin. Hey, good morning, Katie. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Amy. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. All right. So if you don't know about Katie Lance, you're going to love this interview and you're going to want to find out more. Katie is president, CEO of Katie Lance Consulting. She also owns the Get Social Smart Academy, which is dedicated to helping real estate agents with their social media presence, teaching you everything you need to know about how to get social. So I thought this was such a great interview for us to have because I know I work with so many of you who are always asking, Amy, how can I be doing social better for my business? So, Katie, we are going to talk about it this morning. All right, but I have to ask, my very first question, because I am just so curious, is how did you get started in social media and why real estate as your niche?
Oh, I love that question. So I've always been interested in marketing. Even when I was like a teenager, I just always thought marketing and advertising, I just always thought was interesting. And I'm probably dating myself, but back when I went to college, social media really wasn't a thing. So it's interesting how obviously things have evolved. And I got my start doing a lot of this almost 20 years ago, which is kind of crazy to say. I got my first job in real estate about 19 years ago. I was hired by a local real estate company in the San Francisco Bay Area where I live, and I was hired to be their marketing director. And I knew nothing about real estate. I just loved marketing. I thought, well, this will be really fun. And it's going to sound corny, but I just really fell in love with the whole thing. I saw firsthand how hard agents and brokers were working to build their brand, how much they were spending on advertising. There's a lot of, traditional advertising, which still works, of course. And social media came into play, and I was like, this is amazing. This is an opportunity for agents to connect with clients, connect with their consumers, to do so in a way that doesn't cost a whole lot of money except their time. And obviously, since then, things have grown a lot. I went from working there, and then I worked for Inman News for many years and ended up running their social media for many, many years. And then I got the entrepreneurial bug and went out on my own in 2012. And so now my husband and I work side by side. And like you said, our passion is to help agents and brokers get smarter about social media and how to do so in a way that doesn't take up a ton of time and is really effective. So
love it. Well, I loved hearing your story because in all honesty, I didn't really know. But I think it's so great, and I appreciate you seeing kind of the blood, sweat, and tears of just how hard our agents work, right? And just how much they have to put into every aspect of their business as, like I like to say, being CEOs of their business. So, all right, well, I want to talk a little bit about social media because that's why we're here today. And I want to get right into it. You see so much. You have your academy. I know you do a lot of speaking. You engage with a lot of agents. What are 2 or 3 things you're seeing agents doing currently that you feel are really smart social media moves?
So social media has changed a lot, obviously, even in just like the last 5+ years, even in the last like 12 to 18 months. And so I think what's really exciting is that even though things have changed, there's also things that are really tried and true. There's a couple things I'll mention. So first and foremost, real estate's a relationship business, right? We know this. There's nothing like the face-to-face. There's nothing like the people and the connection. And for social media, that is so true. If you're someone who just kind of jumps into social media, post and run, it's almost like if you did that at a cocktail party, you just ran into a cocktail party and said, I have a new listing, and then ran out. Like, we would never do that. Right.
Right.
So the agents that are taking a few minutes, it doesn't have to take a whole lot of time. I always say take 10 or 15 minutes a day, maybe as you're drinking your cup of coffee. I've got mine right here. And you're scrolling through, you're engaging, you're noticing what other people are doing, you're interacting. Like, that relationship building piece is really, really important. It's a small thing, but it's also really important. And that's been true for a long time. It's even more, I think, true today because of all the noise that's out there. Sure. And then the second thing I would say is that the agents and brokers that we see that are getting a fair amount of business from social media, not only are they showing up, they're engaging and interacting, but they're also putting their own voice out there. They're showing their opinion, their personality. They're showing up on camera, which I know can be a little nerve-wracking for some people. But they're really showing their expertise in their local market. They might say, gosh, I just saw this article in USA Today, but let me tell you, like, what does this mean here in Chicago? Or like, what does this mean in this market? And so they aren't afraid of not being liked by everyone. It's okay. You don't have to be everyone's cup of tea, right?
Sure. Sure.
Obviously we want to be respectful and professional, but showing up and putting their voice out there. And one other quick thing I'll say with that is, as much as I love social media and we have a whole business based on social media, it's also important to remember that social media is a rented ground. We don't own it. So I do think it's important that agents create content that can really go with them wherever they are. Maybe it's Facebook today or TikTok or LinkedIn or Instagram. Like, we don't own these platforms, but creating that content, kind of a content library that you can take wherever you go, I think is really valuable.
I love that. What good advice. Rented space. I think that's interesting. So great. So, you're really, obviously talking about such a buzzword right now out there, which is authenticity. But let's just translate it to what we're really saying, which is just be you. Figure out how to be you and do it well and be comfortable in doing it, right? Sounds like that's the name of the game. So those are some great tips and things that you're seeing agents do well. Let's talk, because I think this is important too. What are some of the things that you're seeing agents do currently right now that are not really useful, trending any longer, or just not really, making the mark?
Yeah, so there's probably a few things. I think part of it was what I said a few minutes ago about sort of posting and running, and I still see that pretty often. And I don't necessarily blame the agent. Like, I know as an agent, agents, like I said earlier, they're some of the hardest working people I know. They're wearing 27 different hats, and so oftentimes it's like, I've got a new listing, I've got an open house, I got to post something. Like, we're in and out. But I think if we take a step back, oftentimes that happens because maybe we don't have an overall plan for what we're doing on social media.
Right.
Social media tends to be this thing like a lot of people do when they have time, they sort of fit it in. But I think if you can kind of change your mindset to think about, like, this is a lead generating activity, just like making phone calls is, or door knocking for people who do that, or any kind of like lead generation. If we can kind of change that mindset, which means if you can block off some time to create some content or get into a strategy, get into a rhythm, it's going to make a big difference. So posting and running, we don't want to do that. We want to get, consistent. I think the other thing that I often see, and again, I don't necessarily blame the agent, but I think sometimes we see a lot of content where it's just all about them, right? Like, I sold another listing, or, 2 more closed this week. And I understand why it happens, but I would say if you kind of flip the script a little bit and shine the light on who you're working with, right? Instead of yourself. For example, you might say, gosh, I had an opportunity to work with like 3 amazing families this week, and I can't wait to see what's next for them. Right. So it's, again, kind of like less about you and more about them. Same thing with like sharing a testimonial. You could share a great testimonial or review, but if you can kind of phrase that to like, what does that mean? Like, why do you love what you do? Like, why is this important? And just giving some context. That's a big thing. Just giving context to what you're posting out there, I think is important.
I love it, because I think, a lot of times we say when you're working with clients, you have to answer that question they're asking, which is, why does this matter to me? So I think that probably is true for social media as well, right? Some really great tips. And so you alluded to this a little bit earlier, which is the post and run, which a lot of agents do because they maybe don't have a game plan or don't really love social media. So let's talk about this then. What are recommendations you can give to agents that would make social doable?
Yes, I love this question. And I think a lot of it comes down to time, right? So I said this a second ago about making it a priority. And I always use the example of, like, if you think about other areas of your life, things that are important to you, whether it's family or organizations you're involved in or working out or whatever it might be, there comes a point where you're like, if it doesn't get on the calendar, it's not going to happen. Like, we have the best of intentions in life. So I want to just give a couple of recommendations for like how to get that on the calendar to make that a little bit more doable. So I recommend, honestly, on a daily basis, if possible, or every other day, 10 or 15 minutes a day. And that's going to be time where you're scrolling through your feed, you're responding to comments. As you start to get more traction, you're going to have more people message you. You're going to have, it's a positive problem to have, right? So you want to make sure you're responding in a timely manner. That's also a great opportunity to take a few minutes to notice what's happening in your feed. I have 2 teenage boys. I always tell them, be a noticer in life. And I'll tell the same thing with agents, like, notice what's happening in your feed. If people are sharing about local events or something really cool that's happening, that could be an opportunity to comment or to share. So 10 or 15 minutes a day. If it can't happen every day, maybe it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The second thing I would say is, on a weekly basis, if possible, set aside 30 to 60 minutes once a week where you're either going to post your content, You're going to schedule content. Maybe you'll use a free tool like Meta Business Suite. It's great. You can schedule out some of your content, or you're going to create some of that content. And I find like by just setting aside a little bit of time to do it kind of all in one batch, it just makes it a little bit easier versus, oh, it's Tuesday, I haven't posted something in 4 days, you know? So set aside a little bit of time once a week. And for someone who's a little bit more advanced, I'd even say maybe even once a month, set aside a couple hours once a month. I've actually been doing this for years. And it's one of the ways I've been able to sustain putting out content for a long period of time is I set aside a couple hours once a month where I record a bunch of stuff. And I kind of jokingly say, like, if I'm going to do my hair and makeup and make one video, like I'm going to record 4 or 5, you know, like we're not going to let that go to waste. So I record a bunch. I don't post it right away, but by setting aside some time to do it, it just gives you like some breathing room. So now you've got some content you can post maybe once a week. And then if something comes up, you're out and about, you see a beautiful sunset, you want to take a picture, you're at a cool coffee shop, you want to take a picture, you want to take like, that's fine. Part of social is being social and having fun with it. But again, kind of getting yourself into a routine on that daily and weekly, and maybe even monthly, that I think really helps, just like you said, make it more doable.
I love that. Really quick on that as we finish up, getting started, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, what should agents be most focused on if they had to pick one?
Well, there's not really like a one size fits all, right? And I always tell people, like, I don't think you have to be on all the platforms because there's a lot. There's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, there's LinkedIn, there's YouTube, there's Pinterest, there's Twitter. Like there's a lot.
I didn't even name them all, right?
Exactly. There's like, I don't know how many, 15 or 20 or whatever. So what I recommend is 2 things. So number one, be where you want to be. Like if you are already on social media, have an honest look of like, where do you like spending time? Where are you finding enjoyment? That's number one. Number 2, and this is something anybody can do, is really think about where are your clients hanging out? And I think sometimes we assume like, oh, they're not here, they're not on here. Like I would recommend for anybody listening to this, if you have an email database, you might consider sending an email to your database and saying something like, we are working on serving you better with the content we put out on social media. And we're just wondering, where are you spending time? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it TikTok? Is it none of the above? People might surprise you. You know, so I honestly think, and I know everybody wants to say, do this one platform, but it really does depend.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's great advice. But what I do love is the idea of asking your clients. I think sometimes we're so afraid to ask about what their needs are. And so we're kind of in the dark guessing half the time, right? And so I love this. And, what I'm really getting from our conversation here too is making time for social is important because in reality, it's also the new prospecting. We spend time as agents, or we talk about the idea of, spending an hour where you sit down and you pick up the phone and you call people, but social can also be that hour where you're engaging with your clients. You're just engaging in a different way. So I think, for agents, one of the things I'm thinking of is really recognizing that that is part of your power hour, your, prospecting efforts, because I know a lot of agents who do it well are getting business. So I love that. So Katie, I could talk to you for hours. I know that already. And unfortunately, we only have, I think I'll get cut off at 15 minutes. But before we wrap, I do want to talk a little bit about your academy because a couple things. For all of you at Properties Christie's International Real Estate Agents out there, we are having Katie on for a couple of special sessions for a program we're doing here locally. But we are also offering up for at Properties Christie's affiliates the ability to get what is it? I should know. It's behind you. The Get Social Smart Academy. We are offering it up at an amazing price that Katie is giving us. Instead of it being $970 for the year or $97 a month, if you email Katie, and we'll get you the information on this email here with this video, you're going to get it for $670 a year or $67 a month. So it's a great savings. I actually know agents who are using it now, and it has been a huge game changer for them. So Katie has been gracious enough to offer us that special discount to her academy. So give us a quick plug about what people will find on the Get Social Smart Academy so that they can check it out.
So we created the academy a while back, mainly because we found that for a lot of agents, and some agents listening can relate to this, you have questions, you have answers about social media, and there's no shortage of answers out there, right? On YouTube, on Instagram, there's everywhere. But for a lot of agents, like a lot of times you get to the point where you're like, just tell me what I need to know, right? Like,
Yes,
I
I
don't
love
have to
that.
like go hunt and peck everywhere. So I've always thought like, look, an agent doesn't need to know everything. I'm going to be the filter. I'm going to filter through and give you like the most important things in a step-by-step strategy that I know work, that are tried and true, just to save time and be more efficient. So that's sort of the philosophy of our academy. And all of our members get access to live training. I do 4 or 5 live trainings exclusively with our academy members every month. We do master classes and everything's recorded. So if you can't watch things live, I know agents are so busy, they can always watch everything on demand. We have content calendars and spreadsheets and workbooks. And, everyone works a little bit different. Some people love videos, some people like, workbooks. So we've got just a ton of training there. And then you have access to me. So if you want to reach out and say, hey, I've got questions about this, you can, reach out through email. We have a private Facebook group as well. And, we have folks from all over the world who are part of the academy. There's some great collaboration and referrals that happen too, which is really kind of cool. So yeah, for anyone interested, feel free to reach out through email. I mentioned this to Amy. That way I can get to know you and find out like some of your goals for the business, for your business and what you want to achieve. And my email is just katie@katielance.com.
Oh, I'm so excited. I mean, honestly, it is such a gift to you and your business, so certainly check it out. Katie, thank you so much for your time. Like I said, I wish we could, I have like 20 more questions, but I guess I have to save it for round 2. But really appreciate it. I know that I'm already diving into the academy, making myself a whole lot social smarter. Even I can learn a bunch of tricks, that's for sure. But thank you so much to all of our viewers out there. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon or this morning. What am I talking about? I need more coffee. This morning, make it a great Tuesday. We hope you enjoyed some of these tips from Katie. And remember, as we always say, until I see you next time, you got this.